Did you know that Vic Morrow, the intense and charismatic actor recognized worldwide as the steely-eyed Sergeant Saunders in the series Combat, once confessed he felt more at home reading poetry than firing a prop rifle on set? It surprises many fans to learn that this tough, battle-hardened persona on screen had a gentle, introspective side in real life. Someone who found solace in literature, classical music, and quiet self-reflection. For the generation who watched him lead a squad of soldiers through danger in that iconic 1960s show, Morrow was a symbol of unflappable bravery. Yet behind the camera, he wrestled with emotional complexities that would follow him throughout his life, shaping not only the roles he chose, but the way he navigated Hollywood's intense demands. To understand how he came to embody an entire era's notion of stoic heroism, we first need a glimpse of the world he was born into. Morrow entered the scene on February 14th, 1929, a time of massive upheaval. America was deep in the Great Depression, with many families struggling just to survive. Movies and radio served as crucial escapist forms of entertainment, forging stars who offered hope and laughter. Then came the 1930s and 1940s, bringing war dramas, patriotic flicks, and stories of everyday heroes who overcame dire circumstances. As Morrow grew, so did the film industry, shifting from black and white melodramas toward bolder storytelling that incorporated gritty war themes, very relevant once World War II erupted. This was the cultural swirl that formed the bedrock of Morrow's adolescence, a country preoccupied with resilience and an entertainment landscape increasingly featuring stories about men at war or men confronting moral challenges. In that sense, it was almost fated that he would eventually excel in a military-themed show like Combat. Morrow's early life had its share of challenges and influences. Born in the Bronx to a Jewish family with roots in Eastern Europe, he grew up in a modest home filled with aspirations. His father worked a blue-collar job and his mother strove to keep the household afloat. The neighborhood he roamed was tough, but Morrow found respite in reading. He had an appetite for stories of heroic struggle, from Mark Twain's adventurous tales to the more introspective works of literary giants like Dostoevsky. While his peers fought for scraps of respect in the streets, Morrow daydreamed about a life where he could channel both his aggression and introspection into something constructive, though he couldn't yet imagine what that might be. He was known to skip school occasionally, retreating to corners of the local library where he'd devour thick novels. For a boy from the Bronx, theater or film didn't initially seem like a realistic path, but a spark was lit, hinting that storytelling might hold the key to transcending a gritty environment. When World War II ended and the 1950s began, many Americans, including Morrow's family, sensed new possibilities. The GI Bill's suburban expansion and a booming economy fueled an era of optimism. Television sets became more common, broadcasting variety shows and comedic fare straight into living rooms. Yet, ironically, war stories were still popular in Hollywood, films about the moral complexities of battle, reflecting on the recent global conflict. Morrow, a restless teenager with a budding rebellious streak, eventually left high school to join the Navy at just 17. The discipline of military service, though he never fought in an active war, gave him a glimpse of real hierarchy and camaraderie, experiences that would later inform his portrayal of Sergeant Saunders. He returned stateside with a maturity that belied his years. Unsure of his next step, Morrow wandered into acting almost by chance, enrolling in dramatic courses at Florida State University. There he discovered a calling he hadn't realized he sought. Acting allowed him to combine his fascination with character psychology and his desire for a structured environment. Professors quickly spotted that Morrow had an inherent knack for intensity. He possessed dark, brooding features that cast directors often interpreted as perfect for antagonists or tough guys. But Morrow also tapped into softer emotional tones, which gave depth to even the grittiest roles he tackled. In the late 1950s, after some stage work and smaller TV gigs, Morrow made his breakthrough in film. One pivotal credit was in Blackboard Jungle, 1955, a groundbreaking film about teenage delinquency. Though Glenn Ford was the star, Morrow's portrayal of a troubled student, Artie West, crackled with menace. His performance signaled to Hollywood that a formidable new actor had arrived. Directors took note of his fierce stare and coiled energy. Around this time, Morrow also married actress and screenwriter Barbara Turner. Though their relationship would later dissolve, still Turner introduced him to deeper circles of intellectual discussion about film and literature, broadening his worldview. Yet it wasn't until 1962 that Vic Morrow reached iconic status, cast as Sergeant Chip Saunders in the TV series Combat. Produced by ABC and set in World War II, the show followed a squad of American GIs as they fought through Europe. Despite an ensemble cast, Morrow's presence dominated. His portrayal of Saunders was hauntingly stoic, combining unwavering leadership with a subdued anguish. He wore the horrors of war on his face in a way that felt authentic. Audiences responded powerfully. They recognized that Morrow's seriousness went beyond mere acting. Rumor has it that he would do push-ups and pacing exercises before filming particularly intense battle scenes, grounding himself in a kind of method approach. Once the cameras rolled, he exuded a deep conviction that elevated the entire show. Combat lasted from 1962 to 1967, an unusually long run for a war drama, and cemented Morrow's place as a staple of 1960s television. Fan letters poured in, praising Sergeant Saunders for his heroism and quiet leadership. Morrow, for his part, valued the show's attempt at moral reflection. He felt it transcended typical war cliches, though he also privately confided to friends that 5 years of near-constant combat on screen left him craving variety. A lesser-known yet significant event during this time shaped Morrow's perspective on show business. According to one coworker, Morrow once insisted on rewriting a scene that he felt trivialized the cost of war. Tired of glamorizing violence for entertainment, he pushed producers to incorporate a moment of remorse or reflection for the soldiers involved. While the network was hesitant to deviate from the action formula, Morrow's efforts resulted in a brief but poignant scene that made the final cut. Fans later cited it as one of the series' more emotionally resonant episodes. For Morrow, it affirmed that even in a commercial setting there was room for depth. After Combat ended, Morrow faced the actor's common dilemma: how to break typecasting. Hollywood primarily saw him as a gruff soldier or tough authority figure. While he did snag roles in westerns, police dramas, and even comedic cameo appearances, none matched the impact of Sergeant Saunders. Morrow found some success directing TV episodes, demonstrating a behind-the-camera talent for pacing and character tension. Friends recall he spoke excitedly about bridging the emotional grit he brought to Combat with new directorial visions. He wrote partial scripts, pitched show ideas, and toyed with the notion of returning to stage acting for more artistic freedom. In 1976, he co-starred in The Bad News Bears as Coach Roy Turner, playing an antagonist to Walter Matthau's more laid-back character. The film's comedic undercurrents contrasted with Morrow's typically harsh persona, revealing glimpses of comedic timing, though he was still the tough guy. Despite decent reviews, Morrow felt overshadowed by the comedic ensemble, further fueling his desire for a role that might fully explore his layered intensity. Off camera, Morrow's personal life was often turbulent. His marriage to Barbara Turner ended, and though they shared children, the family dynamic was complicated. Morrow's demanding work schedule, combined with his introspective nature, made close relationships challenging. He occasionally dated but rarely settled, focusing instead on chasing a career breakthrough that felt more fulfilling than what he had so far achieved. He found some solace in reading, always returning to the classics that had comforted him in his youth. He also developed a mild interest in Zen philosophy, intrigued by ideas of mindfulness. That might sound surprising for a man best known for brandishing a rifle on TV, but then again, Morrow was never a simple man. By the early 1980s, he continued to act in smaller projects, hoping for a resurgence. Then came the opportunity to appear in Twilight Zone, the movie, a 1983 anthology film produced by Steven Spielberg and directed by multiple filmmakers, including John Landis. The project aimed to resurrect Rod Serling's iconic 1959 to 1964 TV series, known for its uncanny blend of sci-fi and moral lessons. Morrow was cast in a segment directed by Landis, portraying a bigoted character who experiences supernatural comeuppance by living out the nightmares he'd previously inflicted on others. For Morrow, it was a chance to display both menace and vulnerability, a challenging role reminiscent of the moral complexity he'd once sought in combat. He saw it as a possible pivot back into mainstream recognition, a moment to remind viewers that he could deliver intense drama in a modern cinematic style. No one could anticipate the catastrophe that awaited. In late July 1982, during a night shoot for Morrow's Twilight Zone segment, a staged helicopter scene was set to dramatize his character rescuing two Vietnamese children from conflict. The practical effects involved simulated explosions, gunfire, and a hovering helicopter. The environment was chaotic and dark with limited visibility. Suddenly, a mortar effect or pyrotechnic blast triggered a critical mechanical failure, or possibly the pilot lost control. The exact details remain debated. The helicopter spun out of control, crashing downward, its rotor blades sweeping across the set. Vic Morrow, along with two child actors, Micah Dinley and Renee Shin Yi Chen, were struck by the helicopter. All three died instantly. Morrow was just 53. Eyewitnesses described a scene of absolute horror. Crew members who'd been excited moments before about capturing an intense action shot were left reeling in shock and screams. The tragedy was so abrupt and violent that some people didn't fully register what had happened until the smoke cleared. Morrow's final moments remained purely speculative. There was likely no time to realize the danger. One on-set technician recalled seeing Morrow hugging the children to brace them for an upcoming action cue. Another worker recounted hearing his last words, "I got you all," believed to be part of the script, right before the helicopter descended. The immediacy of the disaster left no room for rescue attempts. Despite frantic calls for paramedics, it was already too late. In the aftermath, heartbreak rippled across Hollywood. The press erupted with coverage focusing on potential negligence. Lawsuits were filed. John Landis and others faced manslaughter charges in a protracted legal case. Some argued the stunt was rushed or not properly safety checked. Others insisted it was a freak accident. The tragedy sparked a major debate on child labor laws and safety procedures in the film industry, fueling new regulations about how nighttime scenes, special effects, and minor actors could be managed. While the industry pressed forward, many fans were left grappling with how a beloved figure like Morrow, who had survived so many fictional battles on television, could meet such a violent end in real life. His family was inconsolable, especially Jennifer Jason Leigh, who would rarely speak publicly about her father's death, though she eventually dedicated certain performances to his memory. Those who worked with him on Combat or smaller films expressed deep remorse, recalling how the man behind those intense eyes was gentle at heart. Some cast members from Combat even organized quiet memorial gatherings, refusing to let Morrow's memory fade into the dusty footnotes of a sensational tragedy. In conversation, they'd mention not just the horrifying final moments, but also Morrow's unwavering dedication to giving war stories a moral dimension, to telling the story of soldiers as humans rather than caricatures. For modern audiences, Morrow's legacy is multifaceted. He is a symbol of 1960s TV at its best. His portrayal of moral fortitude in the chaos of war paved the way for more nuanced soldier characters in future shows and movies. Morrow also embodies the tension many actors face in forging a broader creative identity beyond their signature role, as well as the heartbreak that can come from typecasting. And undeniably, his final accident prompted greater scrutiny of film production safety, something that benefits every performer and crew member to this day. Revisiting Morrow's work, especially the episodes of Combat that delve into the moral complexity of war, can be a moving experience. We see a man giving everything to a role, driven by an internal sense of seriousness that sprang from personal contemplation. Understanding the gentle intellect behind that intense gaze can deepen our appreciation of the weight he brought to even the simplest lines. Now, my dear listener, I invite you to hold Vic Morrow's story in your heart as a powerful reminder that fame, skill, and even on-screen heroics can't protect someone from the fragility of reality. He gave us a character who embodied moral steadiness in the face of war's chaos, but behind that persona lay a restless mind, exploring the power of words and the quiet search for authenticity. May his memory remind us of the precarious dance between art and life, urging compassion for those who bear the weight of playing heroes on screen, and genuine empathy for the real battles they might face just out of frame.